Hi, I'm here with Eric Hanselman, Research Director at the 451 Group. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Happy to be here.
And so obviously you spend a lot of your time thinking about networking as a research analyst, yes.
Indeed.
And I mean, of course that affects the hosting industry. So what are some of the biggest trends you've seen over the last year in hosting?
Well, talking about network, the reemergence of the network as the important means of interconnecting what is becoming a more predominant deployment model, which is hybrid cloud. And taking a look at the ability to get customers connected with whatever infrastructure they're hosting the environment that they're looking at providing, being able to interconnect that in ways that give them predictable performance. We're in the sort of the post-Amazon phase of enterprises trying to look at how they move beyond a VPN-style connection to looking at things like more sophisticated interconnect around Ethernet exchange, to be able to take resources that they want to be able to maintain control of, but still take advantage of the capabilities that they can leverage through hosted managed services, where they can get cost optimizations, where they can get scale, where they can get performance. But in order to leverage that, they've got to be able to interconnect it all.
Yes.
And that's the tough part in all of this, is doing that reliably and predictably. There are a number of providers that are starting to offer services around that take a step beyond sort of the typical platforms that we've been used to in the past.
Wow, so I mean, going forward, who do you think has been doing a really good job of this?
Well, it's something that, the Fortune 50 has been doing exchange services for ages.
Yes.
But we finally, in the last year, got to a real marketing label when Amazon came out with Direct Connect. If you look at it, I mean, Direct Connect is simply a nice marketing message around Ethernet exchange coming out primarily out of Equinix, but other providers as well. And it's a great way to be able to take advantage of cloud-based capabilities, but do it in a way that gives you real high performance, not tremendous cost, but predictable capabilities. And that's the biggest advantage to it. And it's something that you now look at, there are a lot of providers that are providing exchange services either as part of colo or hosting that can allow enterprises to do all these same kind of things. When you look at an enterprise that's trying to hang on to typical high-value data sources, whether or not it's something as simple as a database or an application that generates a lot of the core data for the app, those are things they want to be able to control, both for compliance reasons, security, a number of different ways. They may want to be able to hold on to that locally. But if you want to be able to scale out access to it, it's great to be able to get the delivery end of that application closer to the end consumer, especially with mobile applications, to be able to get those apps out into places where response times are quicker, where they can get interaction with the end user much faster to get much better user experience. But that hybrid approach depends on interconnection to make it really fly.
Yeah, definitely. That's true. And so when you talk to all the different hosting providers, especially here at HostingCon, what are some of the things that you're hearing them ask you about? What are they most wanting to hear from you?
The biggest question is differentiation. When you look at next steps, we're in the midst of moving beyond just simple commodity capabilities. Dedicated hosting is a market that is still large, but it's becoming much more of a commodity. And everybody today is looking at how do you differentiate what you're offering to move into more of a managed service offering that wraps around that dedicated that infrastructure to be able to differentiate from all of the very large commodity players that are out there. As we move forward, the broad market capabilities are going to become more and more commoditized, but there's still a lot of space for players that are able to add services around it that those commodity players don't. That's
great. So you're optimistic.
Oh, absolutely. You look at managed hosting numbers, one of the things I was talking about this morning. The 2014 CAGR on managed services is up into the high 30s in terms of performance.
Wow, 30% CAGR growth. That's amazing.
Well, in managed hosting especially, there's a lot of pent-up demand, both within the mid-market, larger enterprise we see coming on later on, but a tremendous amount of growth also in verticals. If you look at the ARA money that's coming out of healthcare, there's a lot of interest in the healthcare vertical, and of course, government, both federal and regional, is seeing significant impetus. Some of that has waned a little bit, but long term, there's a lot of consolidation work that's happening in the federal government side, and a lot of push to be able to get those moving forward into federally capable, which really is its own unique vertical in terms of hosting capability.
Right. Wow. Well, excellent. Well, thank you so much for sharing your trends with us today. Very, very, really insightful. I mean, it's really interesting how where you sit, where you can see the whole landscape and how everything fits together, because everything fits together.
Networking connects it all.
It connects it all. Well, thank you very much, Eric.
Oh, thanks for having me.
All right, perfect.